We're here live in the living room. I'm Dom from Country Chat with Dom, joined by Regan from Wannabe Cowb0y, and in the centre, the man of the hour, is Cody Cozz.
Man, thank you guys so much for having me.
How are you finding the UK? Because this is your first time here at Buckle and Boots, and the UK in general as well. How are you finding this, I want to say glorious British weather, but yesterday was very miserable, typical British weather.
Okay.
And today was very warm but very blustery, and then Friday was extremely hot here. I mean, you must not think it's hot. You must think it's quite chilly in comparison to Colorado and the US and in general.
Right. I think it is definitely a bit more chilly than what I'm used to in the States, but it's also, I would say that's very similar to Colorado. And like Tennessee, where I live now, you know, it rains all the time. It's just hot rain. So it's kind of, you know, I don't mind the rain there, but when it's just cold rain, this just reminds me of Colorado's climate. A lot, because it is changing. You know, it's still even snowing at times this time of year in Colorado. So really though, I love it. I mean, it's beautiful here. I went on a 2-mile run the other day when I first got here, and as I was running, I was like, holy cow, I'm running in a different country right now. And it was amazing. So, but it gave me a chance to kind of see, you know, the houses and the landscape of everything, things that I just kind of took in. Everything's real, it feels small in a good way. Like it's just everybody knows everybody. You know, the houses are close together, the sidewalks are small, but it's just kind of like old school living, which is refreshing coming from the US, you know?
Yeah, no, I completely understand. It's quite funny how you were talking there about wet, like hot rain and cold rain.
Yeah.
Because in the UK, we like everyone has the same thing, you know. But we've got like, is it heavy rain? It's fine rain? It's dry rain? Like it's just a weird thing that we have. I guess it's just part of the British culture. But before we deep dive into the music, obviously I've got to find out more about your time at your university, Colorado State.
Yeah.
So you didn't have an interest really in music, you know. We've spoken to a couple of artists and they've gone, we went to study music, this kind of thing. But if I'm not mistaken, you did, like, was it construction management or something? So now you fell into, you know, you're living the lifestyle of an artist. What was the dream before music?
Man, I think that, like, coming out of high school, what my goal was to get a football scholarship. And so that was what I put all my focus primarily into. And so for a while, I did just kind of, like, I played guitar. I learned guitar when I was maybe 16, and I always knew I could sing. I think I had terrible stage fright. I just was always self-conscious. I didn't want anyone to really know that I could sing. And then, so really I put it on the back burner, especially through my college years. And then when COVID shut down everything in 2020, it was my junior year of college. And so I really didn't have anything else to do besides write songs. And I was kind of going through like an identity crisis a little bit. Mm-hmm. And just was I had nothing else to do. So
just a little take on that as well, because COVID has affected so many people around the world. You know, so many places went into lockdowns, and particularly here in the UK, I know a lot of people who were going through school at that time. And normally when you're growing up in school and you're kind of like, it's that development stage of life where you make friends, you learn the way that you interact with people, the way that you talk with people. And I find that a lot of the people that I've spoken with that have gone through that at school, going through that growing up phase, they've struggled coming out of it to be able to go into like public places and to, you know, like for yourself to be on a stage, you know, for people that I've spoken to, they'd find that daunting. You know, how have you got kind of like developed yourself to embrace that, you know, to, you know, come to the UK to sing in front of thousands of people at a festival, you know, in a completely different country? How have you found that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's really just a time thing. You know, I'd say I've been doing this professionally now for like the last 3 years.
Yeah.
I think you really, not necessarily that you have to, but I would say for, you know, all things considered, when you do make that leap to move to Nashville and kind of just take that step into the big arena, you know, just there's so much talent there. I mean, a lot of the artists playing the festival this year, you know, I've come in contact with just being in Nashville, and they're all so like you. That's the thing you expect, is that everybody's going to be talented. Typically they're more talented than you, and so you just have to kind of really figure out, you know, how to be okay with that maybe.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it didn't take long for me coming from Colorado to really just kind of win over the state. It was like big fish in a small pond a little bit. You know, the music scene isn't truly heavy for original artists. Cover bands are great. You know, like the cover guys are fantastic. They help me learn a lot. And then, so a lot of it is time. And like, I'd say that, you know, contrary to the age we live in with the social media, TikTok artists, those guys don't go out and play much. They don't play a lot of shows. Their whole career is kind of based on the TikTok stuff. So I think that the way that it's gone for me is I play a lot of shows, and I have played a lot of shows. I've opened for major artists across the country, and I think just that time, that repetition, you kind of just naturally have to fall into it. And the way I would explain it is like at some point you have to step into the shoes of being an artist, and once you accept that, it's a lot easier, and then you can go on stage and feel comfortable.
I mean, we're going to definitely talk about, you know, the artists that you've opened up for, in, you know, in just a moment. But I want to let Regan take over the reins, because Regan here actually used to play American football.
Heck yeah.
Here in the UK, you know, as bizarre as it might sound, we do have that here in the UK.
Yeah.
You know, so I'll let, you know, Regan talk you through this.
Yeah, because you mentioned how you got on a football scholarship. You know, sport in the UK is very different.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, America has got the best format, because how, you know, it works, you know, you get selected from college to play the professional, but in the UK it's complete luck of the draw.
Yeah.
Like obviously, football or soccer, as you know, is our major sport over here. So if you don't get picked up by an academy when you're like 8, 9 years old and then develop through them, you've got no chance.
Yeah.
But what was it like then, you know, obviously playing football in front of, I don't know, probably like 80,000 people, I imagine the stadium is, and then going, you know, okay, if this isn't working out, let me focus on like my country music. Was there a defining moment which you thought, I can't make it? Was it injury, or was it just, this isn't going where I want it, let's focus on this?
I think I never really had aspirations to go play pro football. I don't think I was, you know, there's some really phenomenal athletes in the U.S. that do, like, and some of my friends went on to go play in the NFL and stuff, and it's great. But for me, I kind of just, you know, I achieved that scholarship, and I was like, okay, now, you know, what's next? And I think what COVID did for me, when it shut down the ability to play, was, you know, just like everyone, it was like, oh, we're going to shut down for like a month or whatever. And then it turned into 2 years.
Yeah.
So we ended up graduating from, like, getting our degrees and stuff online. And so it was kind of a weird thing. But man, we had the option to come back and play, to make up for those lost years. And in between all of that time, I had started singing, and like after a couple of years, I was playing like pretty big shows, and I was traveling out to Nashville, and I just was like, man, I think I want to put my time into this. And I also was getting a lot of really great validation from like guys like Gary, you know, that put on shows, and other artists that were like, dude, you are pretty good. Have you ever thought about doing this? And so like there were subtle little signs that maybe I had something that I could take it a little further. And I just, you know, I talked to my parents one day, and they were obviously skeptical, as a parent would be. They were just like, man, do we really, you know, it's such a long shot.
It's not a proper job kind of thing.
Is this going to be good for you?
Right.
Obviously, you mentioned Gary.
Yeah.
I guess another one of my questions. First time in the UK.
Yeah.
Have you been surprised about like how invested country music is in the UK? Because, you know, America's, you know, it's massive.
Yeah.
But has there been any acts this weekend that have surprised you? You know, being like, wow, obviously the different of dialects, I didn't know you could sing like that.
Yeah. Jake O'Neill, man, he hit me up before we got here, and I listened to his stuff, and he listened to mine, and we kind of just like hit it off. And just hearing him sing all weekend is not only is he a good guy, which I think, you know, is the biggest thing. You got to have that, a good personality, and be grateful for stuff, and not a lot of guys are. You know, they kind of lose themselves in all this stuff. But yeah, he's awesome, and I think that as far as my first time being in the UK, just all of you guys are so much more welcoming and warm than what I was told coming here. But I've also heard there's a separation, maybe a little bit from southern and northern.
Oh, that's a big
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
a huge right. Yeah, it's huge.
I mean, I'm a northern lad.
Yeah.
I've always lived up north. I've never lived down south really. And whenever I do visit down south, whenever I go to London or wherever, even like the south coast, there's a lot of places across the south coast around Portsmouth that are really friendly.
Yeah.
But the majority of the south of the UK is very much leave me alone.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I want to do my own thing. Whereas up north, we're walking down the road and everywhere you go, it's morning.
Right.
But it's great, and we're all very welcome here, particularly in this family, as we say, it's a country music
Absolutely.
family here. And you know, in terms of country music, it's grown exponentially. And I just want to touch upon what you said about COVID and, you know, having to do your degree and then getting, you know, graduating online, which is, it's so mind-baffling sometimes thinking about that again.
know, yeah.
Would you say that as difficult as COVID was and as, you know, as scary as it was in a way, it's actually almost like a saving grace
Yeah,
in a way, because it's
100%.
allowed you to develop your own skills, develop your talent, and embrace it, you know, in a way that you might not have. Because if it wasn't for COVID, would you have sat down, you know, and wherever you were staying, and played guitar and improved your singing or got yourself out there, or would you have just carried on down the line of construction? You know,
Right.
how would it have gone?
I know for sure. That's a great question. I know for sure that I would not be doing this right now because I kind of had my life planned out. You know, I had just committed to start working full time with a construction company. I was dating this girl that I was with throughout school, you know, for 4 years, and it was kind of like one of those things that it was just, I saw the road that I was on, you know, and I was okay with that. So when it all came crumbling down, it's like I can literally, it went from being sad about it to I can reinvent myself and be this new person. And so, but what it also did too was that all the major acts across the country shut down too.
Yeah.
So they weren't playing. And so I was getting, you know, I was not afraid to play. I wasn't afraid to get COVID. And I just kind of was like, I guess I didn't really care because I was trying to get myself back to what I was praying about that a lot. But anyway, you know, I ended up getting offered a gig. June 5th of 2020 was my first acoustic cover gig at an Italian restaurant.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Isn't it great how you
love
remember
Italian
the
food.
exact date and
I
where
do.
it was? It's
Yeah, dude.
brilliant.
It's because it changed my life, you know, and it was awesome. And I think what it ended up doing was that it was like a lot of baptism by fire a little bit.
Yeah.
I had to learn fast
A
because
light bulb moment type thing.
yeah, and like I was getting asked to play bigger venues than what I probably should have been because these businesses had to stay open, these concert venues had to stay open, and people wanted stuff to do. So what it ended up doing was shutting all the big artists down, gave me a chance to kind of like start making a fan base for myself. And then when those artists started playing again, I got a chance to open for them. And then those networks across the professional side of it just opened up for me. So like COVID was a saving grace for me in particular.
Yeah, I find it so fascinating how it has, you know, it's helped some people, and obviously it's been a hindrance to a lot. You know, the amount of people that got ill throughout COVID was obviously very sad and tragic. But in terms of, like, myself with my own show, I started my show just before COVID, but with lockdowns and stuff, it allowed me to sit down and do these Zoom meetings and speak with artists all over the world that were spending times indoors. You know, not twiddling the thumbs because everybody was still writing music. People were, you know, creating. You know, it's just nobody was out showcasing it. So we all had these live streams here in the UK and around the world as well. And that's what kind of like brought us to a lot of country music as well. In terms of the direction that you went then from playing in the Italian restaurant to then getting these bigger gigs that you feel like you shouldn't have got, which you totally deserve because your talent is just second to none. It really is.
Thank you.
What was the kind of like direction then towards Nashville? You know, how did that then, you know, transpire to actually happen?
Yeah. So I opened for a guy named Craig Campbell. His big hit is Outskirts of Heaven.
Yeah.
And he's fantastic. If you have not checked him out, I'll vouch for that guy till I die. You know, he completely changed my life. And I opened for him, and he just came up to me, and I approached him and I was like, hey, you know, Mr. Campbell, if you could spend 10 minutes of your time, I just want to pick your brain. And he's like, I'll do you one better. He's like, call me Monday. Gave me his number. I literally was trembling because I was like, what? And So he really did come through and was
Yeah.
like, he answered the phone, we talked about it, he told me he was a fan of my music, like what I was doing, and he essentially was just like, man, I think you've got all of what it would require, you know, across the board. And there are some things that it's like, I would say that, you know, there are things maybe that you are looking for in somebody, because it's a lifestyle that it takes a special kind of person to be able to handle, you know, and not everybody enjoys. They might enjoy the concerts and all that and playing shows, but they either don't like the publicity it gives, or the fans, or whatever it is, the traveling, you know, that you do give up a lot of your life to do this. But I think it just, Craig saw something in me that was awesome, and that validation from a guy that's achieved so much, you know, in his own career, was like, man, if he thinks that I can do this, then I definitely can. And
Yeah.
so he got me out to Nashville, and was just like, started opening a lot of doors that I was not like even remotely gonna be able to do, you know. And he was like, hey, you should write with this guy and this guy, all dudes that were so out of my league. And
A lot of time it is who you know, not what
it
you know.
is
Sometimes
100%. I would say, if, you know, absolutely, you could be the most talented guy on the planet Earth, but if you don't know the right people, it's not going to work for you. You know what I mean?
That's what Blue said to us. You know, we were talking to him yesterday, luckily enough, just outside, and he was there like, yeah, he has got so, like, you know, so many people, and like he's always saying, you know, if you need help, I can reach out to this person, can reach out to that person. But sticking on the music front, we were lucky enough to watch your performance on the main stage. I have to say, you are an absolute like crowd pleaser. I've seen when you're performing, you're a man. You know, you like to interact with the crowd. A lot of artists, you know, sometimes they don't do that, but you get them involved. Give us a little insight into your prep then before you go on stage, because obviously you're very eccentric. You like to march up and down the stage, and you know, I've seen you jumping about and dancing, obviously enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
But how do you like flick a switch, so when you go into that green room before your concert, you go, right, showtime, and then it's a different personality?
is it like a warm up or like a mantra that you go through, like a set list that you
Because
play?
like when you play, for example, when you play football, you know, when you're getting bread, is obviously sitting there, you know, headphones on in the changing rooms, that kind of thing. But yeah, just give us a little in. Don't tell us the whole thing.
Absolutely.
You know, it might be someone we don't know. But yeah, how do you just get into your stage mode?
Yeah. I think that's really exactly what it is. It's like you kind of just turn on a different persona, and it's not necessarily personality wise, because I'm a big, you know, fan of like what you're getting on stage is exactly the guy off stage. I have like 60 minutes to be able to let you know exactly who I am, and that's through my songs. And I like to, not every artist gets a chance to talk about their songs and what it means to them, and I try to do that. So like I want everybody to know who I am and what they're listening to, so they'll buy into me as a person, not just because I'm like,
it's the connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I heard you speaking the other night about the elderly gentleman, obviously, who is, you know, so dear to you. I just see the crowd's reaction, you know, like, wow, this man is, you know, he is human, he's normal, because people see artists as untouchable, and you know, everything's fine, you know, they're living their glam life, but we don't see what goes on behind the scenes. And country music has so many different variations these days. You know, you've got pop country, rock country, but I've listened to your songs, you know, you've got a different variation. You've got your emotional songs, but then you've kind of got your party country songs. Out of all the singles and stuff you've released so far, what would you say is your personal favourite, or is it hard to choose?
Yeah, man, I think I've written so much that I have stuff that I'm more excited that's coming out than I've already put out. Because I've kind of found what I want to say now in the lane that I like want to go down. But I would say the song that means the most to me right now that I've put out is probably Where I've Been Lately. It's the whole message behind the song is literally just not forgetting where you come from. And I get told that often, as artists do. They're like, don't forget the little people, even here, you know, don't forget us here. And the way I was raised, the way my faith is, how my parents are, I just know that that's impossible, because I'm also extremely grateful for the people that have decided that they want to listen to me, because I recognize that if it wasn't for them, my life would not be the same. And I was a fan once, and so I know what I want to see as a fan in the concerts and all that. But Where I've Been Lately is just basically, you know, it's always a little piece of home. No matter where I go in the world, I'm always just going to be that kid that grew up in my hometown in Colorado.
On a little twist to that question there, I'd like to know, what's your favorite line then that you've wrote, or a favorite riff, or favorite kind of like sequence that you've wrote throughout your entire career so far? It's for such a new career, you've done so much already.
Thank you. I'd say it's probably in that song too. It's the second verse, and it's like it's probably now I have to like sing it in my head to remember what it is.
If you want to give us a rendition, feel free.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? You're there like, I normally sing it, I never
I
speak
know,
it.
yeah. It's like another city, another stage, another night. But I'm still the same old boy that you saw under those Friday night lights, I think is what it is.
And it screams out.
It's a powerful line.
Yeah.
But no, like, we're trying to just rattle brains and stuff like that, because obviously having that creative mindset and stuff. So you were talking about TikTok and stuff earlier. Obviously, social media, is that something you're actively on?
Yes.
Are you very much a man, trying to get yourself out there as much as possible? Because obviously there's people watching this that may have never heard of you. So we'd love to know where we can find you and find out about more of your shows and more of your music.
So yeah, I mean, I would say that's the crazy aspect of this, is that social media is such a tool. I mean, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here in the UK. It's like, it is such a connector of the world, and it's amazing if you use it the right way as a tool. And I also believe you have to just be careful as an artist to not let it be your only platform of music. Like, if it's the only thing that's, I mean, it wasn't that long ago that the US was like, we're banning TikTok, and it was gone. It was gone.
For the whole of 1
one
hour.
Day.
And it's like,
I remember the crash, and it was just like, literally, British TikTok was full of Americans going like, quick, follow my Instagram because it's going, and then literally within 12 hours it was back up.
Yeah, and so it's like, but I think that's why you just have to be a little bit cautious if that's your only thing. And like, when it crashed, I didn't really care. It was like, I'm still gonna go play shows. I'm still gonna go write songs. My schedule has not changed. And so for me, it's also a good tool. And I also think that it's a right balance to don't like continue to show your personality on it, because you still want people to buy into you. But I hear so many people complain about the social media stuff, and absolutely, does it sometimes get in the way and get annoying? Yes. But if you really want to do this for a living and you are that committed to this as a profession, there's parts of any job in the world that you hate, but like, there's parts of the things that you do at any job that you're not gonna like. But the difference between the pros and the Joes is somebody's gonna do it and somebody's not gonna do it. And if that's literally the difference between you making it truly and not, again, it's a matter of how committed you are to the craft. And it's like, there's not a single artist that's not on social media. Love it or hate it, and the ones that are like, oh, I'm not going to post all the time, they're still on it. They still post their shows. They still post show photos. So, it's really just like, are you lazy or not?
I think it's a mixture as well of the fact that I was talking with Matt Hodges, a great UK actor here, and
he is fantastic.
He very much says that there's times where he'll be on social media, and then he might go a month or two without actually going onto it because he's just so in the moment.
Right.
And that having that fan engagement all the time, because he's always touring, he's always doing gigs everywhere, and he's so predominant in there. So I can totally get where you say you need to be active, and then there's also the time to remember to just enjoy the moment. Enjoy what you're doing, and don't forget why you're doing it. You're doing it for the love of music. You're doing it to tell a story. You're telling your own stories. Whether it's a fictional one or a real one, it makes no difference. It's still a story that fans can connect with, and your entire collection. I mean, watching performers, we were saying earlier, incredible, absolutely incredible.
It must be crazy for you, because in a sense you're just in the adolescence of your career. It's just starting, and you're surrounded by so many like seasoned veterans of the country world. Obviously, we talked about you know artists in Nashville and stuff like that. So, because your career is so new, obviously with country music, we know you can't spell country without try. So, where do you want to try and get to in country music with a career so fresh?
I think, man, I don't know. For me, I always say that my purpose is bigger than music. And like, I just genuinely feel in that, like, the Lord has shown me before it's happened that my purpose is so much bigger than like I said, just these stages of people. Like, I've been fortunate enough to meet so many amazing men and women that, whether from young children to old, that they have bought into my story and the things that I'm writing about. And even though things in my life have gone and passed, I was saying it yesterday at the round, it's like the song has an emotion that lasts forever. And so some people that might be just now going through something, they're attaching themselves to that song. And I have had people from now all over the country tell me, or all over the world, I should say, tell me like, man, I went through this and it makes me think of this. I had, where I've been lately, I had this lady reach out to me and she was like, I lost my husband like 10 years ago and I miss him every day, and your song reminds me of him, and I listen to it every day. And that's what I mean by like just a purpose bigger than music. By the ability to do what we're doing at this festival and talk to people, it's shown me that like it's so much more than a song, and it's so much more than just getting on a stage and being somebody famous. Like, that's not even in the card.
Yeah, all the money and fame. It's just
I don't care about it at all.
It's so nice to hear people talk about. That's what we want on the show. About how, like, why you got passionate for this and stuff like that. So I guess for the next point is, what can we expect to see of you in the coming year? We've still got a long time left. What is there any more shows? You got any EPs? That you can maybe give us a little hint of what's coming out. We'd love to know what's going on with
Absolutely. So I've got a new song. It's called "Cab in My Truck." That's going to be just like a total summer anthem. It's basically kind of a steamy, like, breakup makeup song. And you kind of maybe broke up with that person, and there's still a little tension there in a good way that you want them back, and she wants you back too, but it's just conflicting, and
it's just not right.
It's not. And then you're just, and finally you just give in. You're just like, come on, let's just go make up. In the cab of my truck, and man, I'm really excited about it. Like I said, earlier, I feel like I'm genuinely finding what I want to say and the sound that I want to have, and I finally have reached this within the last year. This little point, which is a good thing, where nobody's comparing you to another artist. I used to get Jason Aldean all the time and Billy Currington. They're like, oh my God, you sound like that. And now they're like, man, you sound like a mix of that great 90s, 2000s country and classic rock music. And so like, I'm getting this amazing feedback of like what my sound is becoming, and people are just now starting to say that. So I know I've found my own voice, which is awesome. And but I'm excited about that. I've got a bajillion shows playing, and even after this festival, I mean, I've met, quite a few people that are like, man, we want you to play in Ireland and Scotland and Denmark. And so definitely we'll be back here too.
Is there any kind of like collaborations that you can see happening from just being at this festival with these UK artists and artists from around the world? Have you put your finger in any pies and kind of like got your numbers down written?
Absolutely.
Anything that's going to be coming there?
Absolutely, yeah.
I'd love to see you with Jake O'Neill, I have to say.
That'd be insane.
That's what him and we're going to write together. I want to do it while we're here. But either way, we're still going to just like get together, and then the talented Eddie Smith and his band, I mean, they're
insane.
So good. And I've just been hanging with those guys. Like, not only are they just awesome guys, but our chemistry was so great. And I think the other really encouraging thing as well was, like, I told them, that I got all these offers, and they were like, well, we'll totally be your backing band. So to sit there with the knowledge that I have a whole band here too now when I can come out here, it's even more encouraging. But they're also so talented in their own right, so it's like, definitely stuff with both of those guys.
Now, earlier you kind of like dropped into the conversation that you've actually opened up for a lot of shows for artists that you feel like you shouldn't have ever done. Can you tell us more about that? Go on. You can name drop as much as you want.
All right. Yeah, man. So one of my really good buddies, Corey Kent, he's awesome. I got to open for him a couple times, and now we're working on being able to schedule a tour with him, which would be sweet.
That'd be insane, that one.
Yeah, and he's fantastic. Like, he's toured with everybody. He's getting ready to do Morgan Wallen's tour, done Aldean's tour, Parker McCollum's tour. Like, so he's just awesome, but just a great guy. And again, like, similar to me in a lot of aspects, and I think that's why we hit it off. But yeah, man, I've opened for Josh Turner, like John Party, Clay Walker, Travis Tritt.
Some of the greats there. I mean,
I feel
come
like
on.
do you know when you just drop a scroll on the floor and it just rolls?
That's what I was like. I tallied it up one time because it was just recently because this booking agency guy was like, "Who have you played with?" And I was like, "It's a long list, my friend."
In terms of you're obviously going on tour with all these great people. When you eventually have your own major tour, you know, international tour, who would you like to open up for you?
Man, that's a good question. I really, honestly, like, I have so many friends in Nashville who are extremely talented that if I were to hit it, I would want them to be on it with me, in hopes that they could like also like be brought up too, because it would just, there's, like I said, these guys are more talented than me, really. They just haven't,
We all help each other, kind of thing.
yeah,
So.
they just haven't gotten that, you know, that right network or that right thing, and it has happened for me, and I'm very thankful for that. So I just, like, I'd love to bring my friends up too, so they could get opportunities like this. And yeah, man, I just think that it's kind of the ball is rolling, and it's just a matter of kind of letting it go the direction it needs to.
Yeah. I think one of the final questions for me really goes back to home. Now, you're very religious, you know, your love for God is incredible, and love for your family is incredible. You know, it's so blatantly to see, and it's admirable to see as well. When it comes to traveling to places like the UK now, you know, how does your family take that now? Because you said at first they were a bit, bit cautious about it. You know, how have they taken to you moving to Nashville and actually creating a career for yourself?
I think it was honestly like it was a surprise to all of us. I think you set out for a dream, and one that's relatively impossible to achieve because so many people are trying. And there just came a point where it was like, this could very well happen. And I fully believed in it and believed in myself enough that it was what I was supposed to do. And I think it was just the way that people kind of just attached themselves. And there was a guy who recently told me this within the last year, and he said that it's what they consider it like rock star personality, where it doesn't really matter what level you start. There's little signs where if people are like buying into you personally, it doesn't matter how big you are as an artist, because that part is the hard part, to get people to like buy into your story, who you are, and then it just scales from there. So I would say like the most difficult part is creating a brand that's like appealing to somebody. And I'd like to sit and believe that my personality is like warm and welcoming, and like, you know, it's unapologetically just myself and genuine, and like I'm, like you said, I'm not afraid to share my faith and talk about my family and talk about, you know, the loss of my friends and what that did for me, because I know other people are like that too. And so I think what I'm excited about, though, really more than anything, is that I'm creating a fan base that's like-minded like that. So you're not going to see me, you know, flipping off cameras and cussing in a mic. You know, I'm just not going to do that. There's people that do that, and that's just not me. And so
it's part of the people's personas. But before we close out the show, obviously here on Live the Living Room, we want to give everyone an opportunity to, you know, get out there and grow. So again, it's your chance. Plug your socials. You know, where can we find you? Where can we find your music? You know, if you've got any upcoming shows, I believe you're in the UK until Tuesday. So let us know.
So once again, my name's Cody Cozz, and that's with 2 Z's, Cozz. And you can find me on all socials at Cody Cozz Music. I know a lot. I didn't bring merch this weekend, and I've had a bajillion people ask me where they can get my stuff. So
online,
get on the website,
shopcodycozz.com, and when I do come back here, I promise that I will bring my stuff. And then I'm playing in Holmfirth at like number 7 pub Monday. And
Holmfirth Tavern, incredible venue as well. So you'll enjoy it there. Sweet. It's up north still as well, so I like it.
Yeah, it's sticking with the north. But Cody, it's been a pleasure to have you on. You know, it's been great. One
last thing, Cody. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a twist. Now, we've been asking you questions for the past, 30, 40 minutes. I'm going to put the mic to you now. Is there anything that you'd like to ask about the UK scene, about country music in general, or just about life as well? Anything you want, and if you don't want to ask us a question, we can just awkwardly stare into the camera and say goodbye to everybody.
I think I have maybe two or three questions.
You could be a presenter, and it could be
Okay.
up to either.
So I want to know why the sidewalks are so small. First of all, that's crazy.
Well, if you want the honest opinion, it's everything in the USA is bigger.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more people.
Yeah.
So there's
cheaper to have
it's cheaper to
The roads are naturally the roads here in the UK were originally built by the Romans. So they were built for single track horses with a carriage on the back. So they'd only need space for a person to possibly walk up the side.
Interesting. Okay.
So the roads were initially very small to begin with. So we didn't obviously plan to have these huge roads. And you've seen some of the country lanes around here. I mean, they are very narrow. They are very twisted.
Yeah.
But they're still 60 miles an hour, which is great.
Yeah.
Well,
Does that answer your question?
It does, dude. And I was just like, when I was running, I noticed that, and I was like, man, that's crazy. And then the other thing, I'm sure this is cliche, but like beans with breakfast.
Oh, I'm sorry, but on social media, I have seen this all over. So, Dom, I don't know if you've seen it. Americans can't comprehend beans on toast.
Beans on toast is incredible.
Beans on toast is one of the best.
I just want to twist that a little bit. Have you ever had beans on toast?
No, but when I should have, but then they shut down the breakfast place here. But they offered it.
If you get to a supermarket, just buy a cheap loaf of bread and some butter and some beans into the microwave your beans, or into a saucepan, however people do it. You know, I don't want to be controversial in that way.
There's so many different ways of making it.
And just give it a go. If you don't like it, then you can at least say
and I tried
you've tried
Well,
it.
yes. The pub you go into, they might do it. Like, it's weird. There's so many different variations. Like, you got people that put the bread face down and pour the beans on top. I'm a bit of a man that likes to put the beans in the middle and the bread on the outside. But it's a fathom that the Americans seem can't to comprehend like what's so special about it. But until you've tried it,
then
you'll live.
Yeah,
I suppose it's like when you go down to the southern states and when you go to like Texas and you get the breakfast burritos and you get the fried beans in there.
Yeah.
It's very much similar, but ours is just with tomato sauce within the within the beans.
It's also like over here we make our chili with beans. In Texas they don't do that kind of thing. But no, it is one of those funny subjects which is always an interesting one to answer because, and even if you're feeling a bit more interesting, put some cheese on top and watch it melt into the beans. You'll absolutely live life with that.
Final one. Can you say Worcestershire sauce?
Worcestershire sauce.
Beautiful. I think you were the first Americans that was
you've got it pretty much bang on.
It.
But no, I've been Regan from Wannabe Cowb0y, joined with Dom from Country Chat with Dom, in collaboration with Live in the Living Room, and we have to give a big thank you to the amazingly talented Cody Cozz.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Take care, everybody.
See you later, guys.